Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with American Vineyard Magazine, reporting to you from the annual Grape, Nut, and Tree Fruit Expo at the Big Fresno Fairgrounds. One of the big hits always of our expo every year that attendees love is our State of the Industry presentations. We had State of the Winegrape, Raisin, and Table Grape industry. We had State of the Almond, Walnuts, Pistachios. So it's just a great overall summary of what's going on in our local agricultural industry. Our State of the Wine Grape industry and concentrate was given by Jeff Bitter here from Allied Grape Growers. It's always great to hear from you. I know you don't always have the best of news to share, but you tell it how it is. And I know our wine industry has had some struggles. You know, it's post-harvest. How's the industry looking? How did the harvest turn out? You know, we didn't have necessarily a bunch of wildfires devastating the industry like we've had in the past. So at least we got that going for us, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing to look at the positive. Overall, the crop was very light this year, statewide, and that is going to serve to help us become in balance a little quicker, if you will, because of the situation we are in this industry, which is one of oversupply. That oversupply has been caused pretty much through lack of demand. It's not that we've overplanted. I'm always talking about our need to pull out some grapes to bring that market into balance, but short crops help as well. But regardless of the short crop, there was probably only a certain amount that was going to get crushed one way or the other because there was only so much capacity, and I don't mean physical capacity, but just demand capacity for wine to be made this year. So there was going to be some grapes left on the vine, pretty much regardless of crop size, and even though it was short, we saw a lot of grapes being left on the vine, uncontracted grapes statewide. So overall, it was a very difficult year for growers. I would say probably one of the hardest years, at least during my career in the industry.
Well, it's difficult because you're saying if it was a shorter crop, then not only are they not selling as much of their crop, but, if some aren't even able to afford to harvest it, that's usually if it's a short crop, people hope that they'll get a better price, and that kind of helps make up for the lack. But the combination is really rather depressing. I guess, is there a glimmer of hope? What were the bright spots this year, Jeff? Come on.
Yeah, well, we always look for those, right? And I think it's important to keep things in perspective from the standpoint that we can be in a growth stage or a shrinking stage and be out of balance, and that doesn't feel good. If you're just flat and you're not growing, or even if you're shrinking but you're in balance because you're reducing your supply along with it, then that is where you are able to achieve sustainability in terms of your economics of grape growing. And that's where we really need to get to. And I think that it's important to understand the perspective that we've grown this industry incredibly over 30 years. So yeah, if we hit a peak, we hit a peak. Are we off that peak? We are off that peak. But at some point when things normalize, I'm not suggesting they're going to go back to where they were in terms of overall industry size, but when they normalize and we balance that supply and demand, this will be a fun industry again and a profitable industry for growers. But it is all about equilibrium, and that's why we're always kind of barking about the acres and talking about bringing that into balance. The longer term issues, though, are ones that this industry has to tackle, and it has to be tackled from an industry perspective. It can't be any particular producer, any particular grower group or anything like that. It's got to be the industry wanting to kind of control their own destiny in the future. And I think we face some pretty serious headwinds as we look forward with regard to the consumer preferences and tastes and dislikes and all those kinds of things. We need to focus on the fact that we've really grown this industry on the backs of the baby boomer generation, and that generation is passing through. So where are we going to grow in the future? Where are we going to find our stability and maintain our opportunities? And the answer is, as you look in our population, it's going to be in other ethnic groups that are growing in America, but they're not necessarily the ones that historically have consumed wine. Wine consumption has historically been by white, non-Hispanic segment of the population, and we need to look at other ethnic groups and cultures and how do we incorporate wine into their lifestyle and become part of what they do. And so there's a lot of opportunity out there. It's not just about looking at young folks versus old, but it's looking at our entire population and saying, where do we have opportunities to sell more wine, and what kind of product do we need to present them with? What type of packaging do we need to have it in? all kinds of different avenues, because there's various headwinds out there that need to be addressed.
And that's really difficult because a lot of that is that's out of the hands of the growers, because they're
Absolutely.
not totally connected to the buyers and the marketers.
Well, and by the nature of our industry, we are proudly diverse, right? I mean, wine is such that that is how we market ourselves, and unfortunately, it creates fragmentation, and so you have an environment where it's a little bit more about taking market share or one-upping the next guy. This is my story, my wine, this is why I'm better. And I think that at some point we have to get past that and look at the big collective picture and say, what are we going to do as an industry so that the rising tide lifts all boats?
Well, we look forward to seeing that rising tide and hope that the growers and winemakers and marketers can all work together to play a part in that. We appreciate what you do, Jeff, for the industry. Read more about these things in American Vineyard Magazine, and we hope to have a brighter 2025. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.